Ambassador Kelthera of the Vortian Collective shifted uncomfortably in the observation lounge of the Galactic Council station. Across from her sat Commander James Mitchell of the Terran Defense Fleet, his expression neutral but his eyes carrying that peculiar weight that all humans seem to possess. "Commander," Kelthera began, her translator converting her whistling speech into standard galactic, "my species is considering a trade dispute with humanity over the Balaria sector mining rights. Before we proceed, I wanted to understand something." Mitchell leaned back, folding his hands. "Go ahead." In all council records, there are mentions of 847 extinct species. Natural disasters, disease, evolution. But there's one species, the Krell, whose records are sealed. Every database entry ends with a single phrase, conflict with Terra. Do not inquire further. "Commander, what happened to the Krell?" The human's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. He was silent for a long moment, staring out at the stars beyond the viewport. When he finally spoke, his voice was measured, careful. The Krell were a powerful species. Technologically advanced, militarily superior to most of the galaxy. They controlled 42 star systems, had a fleet that rivaled anyone's. They were confident. And? Kelthera prompted. "They made a mistake," Mitchell said simply. "They assumed humans were weak because we were new to the galactic stage. We'd only been spacefaring for about 70 years when we encountered them. They saw our small fleet, our limited territory, our optimistic diplomacy, and they decided we'd make excellent slaves." Kelthera's feathers ruffled involuntarily. Slavery was abhorrent to most galactic species, but it wasn't unheard of in the darker corners of space. "The Krell attacked a colony transport," Mitchell continued, his voice dropping lower. "The ship was called the New Dawn. It was carrying 15,000 colonists, men, women, children, heading to establish a settlement on Kepler 442b. The Krell didn't just destroy the ship. They broadcasted the attack across all human comm channels. They wanted us to watch. They wanted us to be afraid. But you weren't afraid," Kelthera said, though it wasn't really a question. Mitchell's lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. "Oh, we were afraid. Terror is a rational response to watching your people die. But the Krell misunderstood something fundamental about humanity. They thought fear would make us submit. They didn't realize that human fear doesn't lead to surrender. It leads to fury." He stood, walking to the viewport, his reflection ghostly against the starfield. The attack on the New Dawn happened on a Tuesday. By Friday, every human military vessel in known space was mobilized. By Sunday, we'd pulled every retired service member back to active duty. Within 2 weeks, we'd converted 70% of our industrial capacity to weapons manufacturing. Admiral Rebecca Thornton was given complete authority over the war effort. Her orders from the Terran Council were simple: make them regret it. Kelthera felt a chill run through her body despite the climate-controlled environment. "We didn't fight like other species fight," Mitchell said. "Other species have rules of engagement, protocols, surrender conditions. We threw all of that away. The Krell wanted to make an example of us. We decided to make a lesson of them. For everyone." "What did you do?" Kelthera asked, though part of her didn't want to know. "Everything," Mitchell said flatly. "We reverse-engineered their weapons technology in 3 months, something their own scientists said would take decades. We developed biological agents specifically tailored to Krell physiology. We hacked their communications networks and fed them false information until they didn't know which of their own ships to trust. We sent kinetic impactors at relativistic speeds into their industrial worlds. We didn't target their military. We targeted their ability to wage war." He turned back to face her, and Kelthera saw something in his eyes that made her want to flee. But the moment they really understood their mistake was when Captain David Morrison led a strike team onto their home world. Not to conquer it. Not to occupy it. To broadcast a message from their own capital, using their own equipment, to every Krell in the galaxy. The message was simple: surrender now, or we will ensure that in 1,000 years, the only place anyone will find evidence that the Krell ever existed will be in museums labeled as a cautionary tale. They surrendered? Calthera whispered. They tried to, Mitchell said. But by then, we'd already destroyed 40% of their fleet. Their colonies were in revolt because we'd armed their slave populations. Their economy had collapsed. Their military command was in chaos. When they came to us begging for terms, Admiral Thornton told them there were no terms. There was only one option: total dissolution of their empire, release of all subject species, decommissioning of all military vessels, and complete disarmament. Any Krell found with weapons technology would be considered hostile and dealt with accordingly. And they agreed. They didn't have a choice. We'd taken away every other option. Within 5 years, the Krell went from a galactic power to scattered refugees living on the charity of other species. Their language is dying. Their culture is fragmenting. In another generation or two, there'll be a footnote in history. Calthera was silent for a long time. Finally, she asked, "Why are the records sealed?" Mitchell looked at her with an expression that might have been shame or might have been something harder to define. Because the Galactic Council saw what humanity is capable of when we're truly angry. They saw what we can do when we decide that mercy is optional. And they decided that information was too dangerous to be public knowledge. Better to let the Krell fade away quietly than to remind everyone what happens when you make humanity choose between justice and restraint. He walked toward the door, then paused. "Ambassador Calthera, about your trade dispute. I'd recommend finding a compromise. Because the thing about humans is, we don't like being angry. We know what we become when we are. So we try very, very hard to find peaceful solutions. But if someone pushes us past that point again..." He left the sentence unfinished. After he left, Calthera sat alone in the observation lounge for hours, staring out at the stars. Somewhere out there, scattered across 100 worlds, the remnants of the Krell were living with their mistake. She made a mental note to recommend accepting humanity's terms for the Balaria sector. Some species learn from others' mistakes. The Vortian Collective would be one of them.